What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined today by Daniel Starkand. And unfortunately, Monday morning, some breaking news, tragic news, horrible news. Julio Urías has been arrested and charged with felony domestic violence charges. This occurred Sunday night. Jeff Passan was the one who broke the story. Here is Passan's tweet. Los Angeles Dodgers starter Julio Urías was arrested and charged with felony domestic violence charges late last night. An officer with the LAPD tells ESPN. Urías, 27, was booked late Sunday, released early this morning on a $50,000 bond. Daniel, awful on 100 different levels. We're not even going to get into the Urías, the baseball player, because that's secondary. But give me your reaction just as you see this tweet and it's all of the horrors around it.
Yeah, it's just horrible. That was my reaction. I mean, it's not his first offense. He's, gotten in trouble in 2019 for a similar type of incident. So you would think that someone would learn from a horrific mistake like that and never do it again. But here we are just a few years later, and we don't really know too many details of what happened. I was just before we recorded this, I was reading the TMZ article about it. They don't really have any details either. I know that Julio was at the LAFC game last night. Messi was in town. There's a lot of celebrities there. He was on the list. So it probably came after that in that area. But other than that, we don't really know any details. But regardless, it's horrible. Hopefully he's not on the mound for the Dodgers ever again. I think I could speak for both of us in saying that. And I do have confidence that the Dodgers will do the right thing here. But yeah, it's just horrible. And you feel for the women, of course, like, no women should ever be physically, mentally, verbally assaulted by a man under any circumstance. Like, that's never okay. So it's just horrible.
Yeah, you mentioned it. May of 2019, Julio was arrested for a misdemeanor domestic battery at the Beverly Center. Eventually, the video came out and showed what looked like him to be shoving his girlfriend. She said she didn't feel like a victim. No charges were pressed. It was interesting going back and reading the story on that. They deferred prosecution on 3 conditions. First is that he participated in a hearing. Second, that he committed no violent acts against anyone. And third, that he completed a 52-week domestic violence counseling program in person and in a group setting. At the time, he was placed by Major League Baseball on paid administrative leave, but then was reinstated just 7 days later. What's interesting is the second condition there was that he commits no violent acts against anyone. So they weren't going to prosecute that charge based on the fact that he did nothing. Now, my understanding is that the statute of limitations have since passed. They had 12 months, I think, to prosecute him on this. Obviously, it has since been 3.5 years or whatever, 4.5 years since that incident. But as you pointed out, I mean, that's the part for Julio. You want to say, hey, he's been charged, he's been arrested, he hasn't been convicted of anything. But when a guy has been accused of something like this in the past, and by the way, there's video evidence that even if you want to be as optimistic as possible is not awesome looking for him, it's actually horrible looking, then you get this happening today. And I'm with you, Daniel. I don't think Julio Urías ever pitches for the Dodgers. In part, that's easy to say because he's probably going to get placed on administrative leave immediately. And obviously he's a free agent after this season. And I mean, we can get into whether he pitches in Major League Baseball again, because I think that's a larger conversation. But I agree with you. I think at a bare minimum, he never pitches for the Dodgers again. He's going to be done for this season. He'll be on administrative leave. It will be extended. He won't pitch this year. And again, I don't really want to make this about a baseball player and about the Dodgers as a baseball team, because domestic violence, felony domestic violence charges are far bigger deal than that. And yet we're here talking about the Dodgers. This is a big blow to a team that, for Julio, like, this was a guy that even if he'd struggled this year, the Dodgers are going to be counting on.
Yeah. And I didn't even know that the 52-week training was part of his punishment the first time around. So all that tells me is that he learned nothing from all those classes, all those discussions. He clearly did not learn his lesson. And here he is a few years later making the same mistake again. And for him personally, it couldn't come at a worse time. I know you said, we don't necessarily need to talk about the baseball part of this, but of course, we're a month away from the playoffs here. The Dodgers were counting on him to be one of their starters. I know his season's been a mixed bag, a lot of ups and downs, but I still think we both had him in the playoff rotation before we got this news. So that's I think that's going to change. And then he's a free agent this winter. Like you said, who knows what his future is going to hold in Major League Baseball. We saw what happened with Trevor Bauer. He's been pitching in Japan, and there is far less evidence for what he went through, especially now with this being Julio's second incident. I don't think that's something that's going to be taken lightly around the league. So obviously I don't really care how much money he cost himself at this point. Like, he deserves everything that comes his way from here on out, just because, you know, he made a mistake that's unforgivable in my opinion, especially when you got a second chance the first time around. You're not going to get a third chance. At least in my opinion, I don't think he should get a third chance. So it's really just unfortunate. I hope the girl is okay. And yeah, I just really hope that the Dodgers don't bring him back, and we'll see what happens from here. I know there's a lot of administrative stuff that needs to happen. He'll probably be placed on the restricted list. There will be an investigation, but the Dodgers are not forced to send him out on the mound by any circumstance. So I just hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, obviously, make sure you stay tuned to DodgerBlue.com, because as more details come out, we will have all the information there. As you pointed out, we're doing this right after the pass and tweet, and so there's details that are still yet to come. We'll see how that plays out. But it is interesting because Blake and I had a show last night, and we talked about the playoff rotation, and Blake was actually advocating for Julio Urías not to be in the postseason rotation, just to trust the young guys, Emmett Sheehan, Ryan Pepio, maybe even Gavin Stone, Walker Buehler coming back, Ryan Yarbrough. I mean, the Dodgers do have a bunch of guys that they could throw there. But again, the storyline today is just Julio Urías making a horrific decision. To your point, we hope everybody's okay. And I'm not really that concerned about the baseball player Julio Urías and how this impacts the Dodgers. It's all about, you know, hoping everybody's all right and that he gets the consequences he deserves for committing something as horrific as this. So that's Daniel Starkand. My name is Jeff Spiegel. Again, check out DodgerBlue.com, because as details come out, and as Major League Baseball makes decisions and the Dodgers make decisions, as Julio Urías at some point, I'm sure, will make a comment on all of this. We'll have that for you there as well. So enjoy the rest of your day. Horrific news for the Dodgers, for Julio Urías, for the person that he committed this crime against. But when you do something stupid, there are consequences, and Julio's about to find that out. So enjoy the rest of your day, folks. This is DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network.